angst, you know, that wild feeling, and it rises. It's this energy inside you that you have been taught to keep small. You've been told that you're too much for speaking your mind because you want more, or just refusing to be anything other than exactly what other people want you to be. If this resonates with you and you're nodding your head, then you could be feeling the whisper of Lilith. And that feeling is not just passing through, it's a sign of a massive awakening. For centuries, Lilith has been wrapped in fear and confusion. Her story got complicated and twisted, especially in ancient Mesopotamian and Jewish folklore, portrayed as a demon. Her tale is being of Adam's first wife. She was created from the same earth as him, essentially his equal. Adam demanded she lie beneath him. She refused. She shot back that they were equals and she would not be subservient. For this defiance, she was told to leave, and she was exiled from the Garden of Eden and went to the Red Sea. She chose this over submission. In the retellings of this story, she's been turned into a weapon. She's become a demonic figure, a cautionary tale for any woman who dares to claim their own power. But this is not our story today. Today we are reclaiming Lilith, not as a demon, but as a powerful archetype of sovereign, feminine power. Because femininity is also strength. She represents the very part of ourselves that we've been told to hide, our feminine power, our sacred sexuality, our truth, and yes, sometimes our untamed spirit. Understanding her journey is the key to unlocking essentially what could be the most powerful version of you. To make this journey feel real and tangible, I'm going to map out what I call the 7 levels of the Lilith structure. This is a modern framework, a blueprint for your own liberation. This blueprint lets you see exactly where you are right now and where you're going to next, what's happening for you next. Again, this isn't an ancient system, it's a new lens to understand your path from suppression to sovereignty. As we go through these 7 levels, I want you to really ask yourself with total honesty, which stage are you in? And before we get into it, this is the Darling Aura. I am Clarissa. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you're returning, then thank you so much. I really feel the love. And of course, if this video resonates with you, then please like, subscribe, share, comment your Lilith below. What has been happening with you, if you do dare tell. And especially Lilith and Scorpios. You've been having your Scorpio return right now because the transit in Lilith and Scorpio is back at your Lilith and Scorpio. So what's going on? What's been happening? And as we are at the end of these degrees, Lilith in Sagittarius is coming up next. I bet they're feeling it already. I bet they're starting to feel it. Level 1 is the suppressed. The first level, the very foundation of this structure, is the suppressed. This is the stage of the dormant seed, the power that has been buried deep down. At this level, you are a chronic people pleaser, constantly looking for a thumbs up from everyone else. Your own desires, needs, boundaries are so buried that you might not even know what they are. You're living in a state of self-abandonment, and it feels completely normal, maybe even necessary, to survive and to be accepted. The main thing about the suppressed is that you're profoundly disconnected from your authentic self. You say yes when your soul is screaming no. You laugh at jokes that aren't even funny. You make yourself smaller so that others can feel bigger. This stage is all about deep-seated fear of being judged or conflict or being cast out. You've swallowed the message that your truth is dangerous, your ambition is unlikable, and your sexuality is something that should be managed or hidden. The voice in your head isn't even yours. It's a noisy committee of society's rules, your parents' expectations, and all your other critics and your inner critic. This is a mirror of how the feminine has historically been shut out of powerful places, taught that being submissive is just the only way to be safe. A perfect example of this is a woman desperately wanting a promotion but never speaks up in meetings, terrified that she'd sound too aggressive. Or the partner who silently resents the other half for never helping out around the house but being too scared to say anything because it can start a fight. It's like living your life with the sound off. Your awakening task here isn't to stage some grand rebellion, it's much quieter. Your work is simply to notice. Notice the tiny moments you betray yourself. Start a journal. Maybe for the first time, write down a desire you've never said out loud. Ask yourself, whose approval am I chasing right now? And what is it costing me? The first step out of suppression is the quiet, courageous act of just seeing it. Level 2, the awakening. This is where the first cracks start to show in the dam of suppression. It's usually not a gentle or pretty stage. In fact, it's often kicked off by crisis, a painful breakup, a job loss, a health scare, or just a moment of deep, soul-crushing emptiness that you can't ignore anymore. This is what I call on bended knees. When we seek help the most, we feel like we've just got to be on bended knees. The life you carefully built as the suppressed suddenly feels hollow and fake, and this realization can shake you up. The key feature of the awakening is the rise of uncomfortable feelings, anger, resentment, and a deep, aching sadness that starts to bubble up in you. You might find yourself suddenly furious about compromises you made years ago. You start to see all the self-sacrifice not as something noble, but as a deep betrayal of your own soul. The question is this really all there is? That question starts to haunt you. You get your first glimpses of what you actually want, separate them from what you've been told you should want, and then the difference is jarring. This stage can honestly make you feel like you're losing your mind. The familiar ground of people pleasing, while miserable, was at least predictable. Now you're completely in new territory. You might feel irritable, restless, and deeply unhappy with the life that once made you feel so secure. This is the dormant Lilith energy starting to stir up inside you. The first recognition of your own squashed power is the first gut feeling that you were meant for more than just quiet agreement. Your job at this level is to let yourself feel. Don't shove away the anger. Let it be there without judging it. It's your sacred messenger telling you exactly where your boundaries have been crossed. Get curious about your resentment. What did you give away that you know you want back? Start a small practice of asking yourself, what do I truly want right now? Even if the answer is just taking a walk instead of answering emails, your task is to start letting the difference between your own inner voice and the loud chorus of everyone else's expectations become a chasm. This is the very beginning of taking back your inner authority. This brings us to our third level, the rebel. If the awakening was the first crack in the dam, the rebel is the flood, honey. This is the stage where you actively start breaking free from the condition that's held you prisoner. It's messy. It's chaotic. It's absolutely essential. This is where Lilith's whispers become a deafening roar. Her power isn't nurturing, it's disruptive. It doesn't blend, it stands its ground. The heart of the rebel stage is active resistance. You're learning to say no, and at first that no might come out like a defiant scream. You've held it in for so long. You start setting boundaries, but often clumsily with a lot of aggression. because you're not sure how to control and direct it. You might swing to the total opposite of what people please and become so fiercely independent that you push away even healthy connections. This is the stage of rejecting all the shoulds and supposed tos. It's the full-blown mutiny against authority, tradition, and rules that feel like a cage. At this point, you're testing your own limits and running headfirst into all the territories that used to be off limits. Think of this as your spiritual teenage years. Just like a teenager who wants to dye their hair and slam the doors to carve out an identity to separate themselves from their parents. The rebel makes dramatic, sometimes destructive choices to break away from their inner suppressors. You might quit a stable job and that long-term relationship, or cut off your friends that don't get your new voice. Your energy can feel frantic and urgent because you're desperately trying to grab back what was stolen from you. This directly mirrors Lilith's own story. When faced with subordination, she didn't negotiate, she fled, choosing a wild exile over a fake life. Your task here is to learn discernment. While the rebel is vital, the goal isn't to burn your entire life to the ground. Your work is to start channeling that raw anger into purposeful action instead of just reactive chaos. Ask yourself, what am I really rebelling against here? Is this rule truly holding me back? Or am I just fighting it for the sake of fighting? The key here is to learn the difference between a healthy boundary and a defensive wall. Practice saying no with firmness, but without rage. This is the turbulent but crucial shift between being a victim of your past and becoming the architect of your future. After the chaotic fire of the rebel comes the fourth level, the reclaimer. Here the energy starts to mature. The wild reactive defiance of the first stage begins to settle into a grounded, intentional sense of self-ownership. You're moving from fighting against the old world to consciously building a new one for yourself. No longer are you breaking the rules, you're writing your own. The central theme of the reclaimer is owning your desires, your body, your boundaries, consciously without apologizing. Most importantly, this is the level where you reclaim your sexuality from a place of power, not shame. We all know for centuries, feminine sexuality has been either suppressed or twisted, and Lilith's story is the ultimate example. Her sexual freedom was the very thing that got her demonized. At the reclaimer level, you take that sacred part of yourself back. You begin to understand your sensuality is a vital force, not just something you use for male approval or hidden away in shame. Your boundaries also become more skillful. You're no longer aggressive. The electrified fences of the rebel stage. Now, they are clear, firm, and held with quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout. You can say no from a place of self-respect, not anger. You can say a full-bodied yes from a place of choice, not obligation. You start to figure out your non-negotiables in relationships, in your career, in your life, and you honor them with integrity. You're finally aligning what you want with what you value. Your work at this level is to do the deep, intentional work of dismantling internalized shame. This means exploring your relationship with your body and your pleasure. This means spotting the subtle, sneaky beliefs that hold you, being the bad girl versus being the good woman. Journaling can be really huge here. You can try a prompt like, what was I taught about my sexuality growing up, and what truth do I choose to believe now? Practice looking at yourself in the mirror and speaking the words of love and acceptance into your body. Your task is to fully live in your physical form and to declare to yourself and to the world that your desires are valid, your pleasures are sacred, and your boundaries are not up for debate. Level 5 is the Alchemist. This is the stage that represents a massive shift from external battles to inner wisdom. If the earlier stages were about breaking free and taking back your power, the Alchemist is all about learning to turn your deepest pain into your greatest strength. You stop running from your shadows and instead turn to face them, realizing you hold the key to your wholeness. The hallmark of the Alchemist is to essentially look back at your past wounds, the betrayals, the heartbreaks, the traumas, without being completely swallowed by them. You start to see how your struggles forge your character, your resilience, your empathy. Your scars are no longer signs of damage. They're revered as the maps of your journey. This is the heart of shadow work. Not getting rid of the darkness, bringing it into the light so it no longer controls you from behind the scenes. You understand that your power doesn't come from being perfect and in an untouched life. It comes from being whole. An alchemist can take the lead of her suffering and spin it into the gold of wisdom. For instance, a woman who survived a toxic relationship now recognizes the patterns of manipulation with crystal clear vision. But not just for herself, others too. A person who struggled with deep-seated insecurity now uses the experience to feel profound compassion for others who feel unworthy. The wounds become a real source of power and credibility. You realize that your vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a depth. Your work here is to actively engage in this process of transmutation. This often means doing deeper therapeutic work to process old traumas in a safe space. It means developing a consistent practice of looking inwards, whether it's through meditation, journaling, or just spending quiet time in nature. Ask yourself, what is the gift in my wound? What wisdom did my biggest struggle teach me? How can my story be medicine for somebody else? The task of the alchemist is to stop seeing themselves as a victim of your own past. It's to start seeing yourself as a student of it. You're learning to harvest the wisdom from your pain and use it as the light to your path ahead. Welcome to the level 6, Sovereign. This is the stage of full graceful embodiment. At this level, you're not just reclaiming or healing parts of yourself anymore. You're living as a whole, integrated being. The war between your inner good girl and the rebel is finally over. The light and dark parts of you are no longer fighting, but dancing together in harmony. You embody the dark feminine in its complete power, fierce, wise, compassionate, and utterly unapologetic. A sovereign woman has a presence you can feel. She's grounded in her personal power. She doesn't need to announce it. She just radiates it. She has full acceptance of every single part of herself. Her ambition, her softness, her rage, her joy, her sensuality. She understands that all these are not contradictions. She can tap into her fierce, boundary-setting warrior energy when she needs to. And she can access her soft, nurturing, compassionate side just as easily. Her choices are guided by her own inner compass, not the fear of what others think of her and the need for external validation. The sovereign refuses to shrink herself to make others feel comfortable. She takes up space, she speaks her truth with both clarity and kindness, and she lives a life that aligns with her core values. She sees herself through Lilith's eyes with a gaze that is both fierce and loving towards her own nature. She knows her wholeness is her power. This isn't about arrogance or being domineering, it's about a deep, quiet, unshakable self-possession. It's the understanding that you are ultimately the authority in your own life. Your work at this level is to be about embodiment and expression. The task is to practice radical acceptance of yourself every day. It's crucial. It's about creating rituals that honor your sovereignty. Morning meditation, a dance practice, a simple adorning of your body that makes you feel amazing. Explore your unique expression of power, whether it be through art, leadership, teaching, or healing. The journey is no longer about becoming, it's about being. You aren't trying to get to somewhere else. You are here, now, in the full, magnetic power of who you already are. Your remaining task is to simply own it. The final stage of the journey is the 7th level, the Liberator. This is where your fully integrated sovereign turns her energy outwards, not because she feels obligated, but she feels a deep genuine desire to serve the collective. From walking the path from suppression to sovereignty herself, she becomes a guide for others still on their journey. Her personal liberation becomes woven into the liberation of all. The Liberator embodies the highest potential of the Lilith archetype. She has so completely owned her own power that she can hold spaces for the messy, the chaotic, the beautiful transformations of others without an ounce of judgment. She sees the spark of the divine in those still trapped at the suppressed stage and reflects their own potential back to them. She doesn't give answers, she asks powerful questions. She doesn't rescue, she empowers. She understands that the demonization of Lilith wasn't a personal smear campaign. She's committed to helping tear those inner structures down. The Liberator might be a therapist, a coach, an artist, a leader, or simply a friend who listens with a wise, open heart. She shares her story not to get applause, but as proof of what is possible. She creates resources, builds communities, fosters a safe environment where others can explore their own shadows. The work of the Liberator is the continuous cycle of service and self-growth. Your task at this level is to find your unique way of sharing your medicine with the world. How can your journey make the path easier for others? This could be formalizing your teaching or mentoring, starting a blog, creating art that tells your story, or just simply showing up authentically in your daily life, which in turn gives other women permission to do the same. The journey never really ends here, because liberation isn't the final destination. It's an ongoing practice of choosing freedom for yourself and for all. So we've walked through the 7 levels of the Lilith structure, from the suppressed through the awakening, the rebel, the reclaimer, the alchemist, the sovereign, and finally, the liberator. Remember, this is not some rigid straight line. You might find yourself bouncing between these levels at different times, or even in different areas of your life at the same time. You could be a sovereign in your career, but still working to be a reclaimer energy in your love life. This is perfectly okay. The goal isn't to race to the end or to judge yourself about where you are. Every single stage is valid and necessary part of becoming whole. The real magic happens when you integrate the lessons of each level, so you have access to the full spectrum of your power whenever you need it. The journey is about reclaiming your right to exist in your fullest, most authentic expression. It's about understanding that the parts of you that have been labeled too much, too intense, too difficult, too dark, are not flaws to be fixed. I'm so curious to know which stage of the Lilith structure you are in right now. What's your story? Where do you feel the energy most? Let me know in the comments below, because I feel like sharing our journey is such a powerful way to be seen. We might be able to build a community, speak to each other. And if you're ready to go deeper into activating your authentic power, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, because honey, we're only getting started. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.